Okay, I think we should be able to kick it off in like 1 minute, maybe now. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, doing great.
I think you are dialing in from Hong Kong.
Yeah,
It must be a bit late there, so thank you very much for joining.
oh, all good.
Very nice. Okay, so just a couple of due diligences before we start. So this space is recorded and it will be, I mean, a recap will be posted next week. And yeah, we have a very interesting guest today, very interesting project, God Game on the blockchain, but I will let Frank to talk about that a bit more. So I think the best is to start with an introduction about you, Frank. So if you could give us a bit of background about yourself, that would be very much appreciated.
Sure, it's been a pleasure to be invited here. Always happy to work together with the Morningstar team. And my name's Frank. I'm the co-founder of Apeiron. And my background actually comes from management consulting and private equity. I've been in that field for over 10 years, but I decided to venture into gaming. Well, not that short, also 7 years ago. But that's mainly because I've always loved gaming. I played very competitively when I was young in Red Alert, StarCraft, Counter Strike, Street Fighter. So yeah, almost played every single game you can imagine in the year 1980s to 2000s. But yeah,
It
that's a
seems,
short thing about me.
yeah, it seems that we have many games in common in our portfolio, let's say from earlier years. So I'm very glad to hear that. Um, how do you decide? I was always wondering, how do you decide that, okay, from now on I'm gonna build a game, right? As you mentioned, you were playing the biggest games. Maybe you even mentioned some of them which I never heard of. So you are
Mm.
very well versatile with the gaming industry. How do you reach that point when you say that, okay, I'm gonna build my own game?
Well, the point came in year 2015 when I first started playing mobile games. Because after I graduated and worked, I never really had much time to play games as much as I used to. I mean, one sitting requires typical games require a long gameplay session, and I can't really afford it. But with mobile games come more fragmented game time where I can like squeeze in a quick game in between work, and that was how I met mobile games. I found it to be a great platform, and although I spent a lot of time in the past, it became like that I spent a lot of money. But but still, it was a great way for me to well re-engage back with games. And I was playing with all these mobile games, and I was thinking, well, I want to. That they had a lot of potential. The accessibility, the interface, the tag is improving all the time. But I just never seen a complete game in my eyes. It seems the developers back in the days were more focused on creating a simple game or a decent game, but they never want to complete it, and they only choose to go for reskins, remodeling instead of adding more content or creating more on the franchises that are already built. And I thought it was a shame. So I wanted really to try it with my hand. I was in private equity. I invested in a lot of unicorns and companies, turning unicorns into IPO companies, and I witnessed all these great leaders and companies. It's very inspirational, and I envisioned myself to do something like that someday. And gaming is also my passion from very young. So I sort of combined the two and tried my own hand at entrepreneurship. It's quite crazy. I went from very stable sell side, buy side job into a sell side, but that was also a very rewarding experience. Although it did take quite some time for us to complete this. Well, it's not perfect yet, but this game that I really want to build, and it's been a very amusing journey. And now we're at a very important juncture where the game is finally going to be launched, and so yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. So continuing to that thought that you said that you felt that the developers never finished up a game properly. For you, what is the most important aspect when you build a game? Okay, let's start with the building. When you plan it out, what you keep in mind, what is important for you, and then we will go a bit more specific.
I think it's the stories and the relationship that you build with the franchise, not just the typical characters, but also the lore regarding the whole world. Um, and beyond gaming, there are also other products and venues which are brand. When a game no longer is just a game, it becomes more of a brand and IP. Like the most famous games, of course, everyone quotes from Blizzard, Nintendo. They no longer are just single installments of games, but they become franchises that become part of your childhood. That's as important as any TV show, cartoon, or things that we grew up with. And I really want to see that because mobile game with its playtime and accessibility can be even more than the time you spend in a standard MMO or even a great AAA game. Mobile actually has that reach, but because of the monetization and accessibility, a lot of different brands find it hard to build it over there. But I think that is also where we were stuck in the beginning because when I founded the company, I was envisioning the game to be just a typical mobile free to play game with in app purchases and all. The model never really fit. It's only until we met the blockchain that we found a unique model that we think that actually lets us expand our business model to a more broad and encompassing model that can not just utilize the accessibility and monetization of the mobile phone, but also ride on a very strong community to build the background and the core lore and franchise and the IP element. It's quite a lot, but yeah.
It is, but it's also very interesting because as you speak, I have this feeling about multiple games, multiple worlds. We are going to enter that as well. We are going to discuss it. Now, I want to discuss a bit more specific because you are building a God game, which is also the first on the blockchain. So considering this, is there any additional important aspects which is applicable to a God game when you are building it?
I think God Game, one of the toughest things about God Game is that it encompasses so many different aspects of gaming. God Games itself is a hybrid genre involving simulation, artificial intelligence, real-time strategy, and role playing. And to nail down on the essence of God Game, I think from the most popular titles like Black and White and Populous is the idea of influence on over good and evil, and how you interact with the civilization. It's the idea of steering your community, your civilizations, evolving them to a path you want. It's to put it simply, it's well, it's really doing whatever you want with an entire planet. The choices you make are oriented towards a good or evil index, and the morality and the storyline of this morality is the essence of what I envision as a good God game. Like every action you do has a certain morality effect on your account, on the planets, on everything you do, and this will ultimately affect how the gameplay evolves, how the story evolves, and it becomes a gameplay experience that's different every time you play it.
Now, you already dropped some interesting thoughts there about the planets, about the morality, about how you build up your account. Before we go into that, I wanted to ask that being the game built on the blockchain,
Hmm.
does it give you extra challenges? Is it a more technical part of the challenges, or what bigger challenges you've met so far? With
I
or
think
without the blockchain? Maybe if you say without the blockchain, these were like the biggest challenge for me, and additional to that, that it is the blockchain maybe that raised another challenge. If you can share some of those.
Sure. Well, without the blockchain, the main problem of the game is still just how to try to get the point across because God games in general are very hard to explain because they encompass so many different genres and gameplay mechanics. When you explain it to a team of developers who try to develop it for you, when you explain it to investors how the whole game works together, it often is quite complicated. And adding blockchain elements into it did not simplify this equation. It actually made it even harder to understand for most. But the way we tackle these problems is just by having a very good core product development team where our artwork, our gameplay mechanism and our trailers can really show what all this means and how it all comes together with a very unique look. And the advantage and the disadvantages of the blockchain element is that uh, meeting your core community, meeting investors, getting funding lined up is excellent. I've been in private equity for so many years, and I've never seen money move this fast, as fast as the ones in blockchain. I think blockchain, whether this whole environment or future of Web3 goes up or down, I think Web3 is here to stay on one very good core strength. It's the ability to prototype and invest in new ideas. These communities come and go, investors and the money move around quickly, but it also helps prove new ideas. Um, and this will always be the strength of Web3 and blockchain. But in order to accommodate these investors, these money, there are certain sacrifices that a project must choose to decide on how to handle. Do they want to get a large enough war chest in the beginning by sacrificing certain aspects of their economy and future gameplay balances, or do they stick to the gameplay balances and the future economy, but at the cost of less investments and less relatability with the current crowd, where most focus on speculation. This is the key balance that actually is always the struggling point, because even for Apeiron, we choose the latter, like we want to focus on the long-term economy. So we always go out into different AMAs and tell others this is actually not a typical Web3 project where you come in to speculate and come in early and wait for like a 20x, 30x upon token launch. I do believe we have the potential, but it is not in my best interest or our company's best interest to do exactly just that. I always compare ourselves as more of a long-term project in the Web3, and it will take time for us to build, and we will certainly monitor the prices of the tokens and the NFTs to make sure that we are on a healthy rise instead of a quick pump and move on strategy. So there are different ways, not saying this is the right way for all projects. I think there are many different ways to approach different teams and environments. But yeah, I think for us, it's still trying to choose the right partners, trying to build the stronger core community so that we can onboard the larger ones at a later time.
Well, I think you shared some very valuable information, even for future builders. And it just popped in my head to ask you, did you plan from the beginning to build it on the blockchain? Because I think I read it somewhere that you started to build. You also mentioned that you were in gaming industry for 7 years. Now, blockchain was nowhere
Mm.
around that time, right? I mean, we had only Ethereum. Did you plan to, or did you know that's something you will come, or first it was more like
Absolutely,
a Web2 game?
absolutely not. We only came into blockchain 3 years ago. In the beginning, we planned to build this as a mobile game, like a simple mobile game. But as I said before, I think it's the business model that never really fit. For me, when I founded this company, I wanted to create a company with a core team that can be sustainable. A lot of these mobile games you see nowadays, or different games projects you see nowadays, are much like Hollywood and the entertainment business. It's a gig-based business where teams and projects and teams and people move from one project to another. They don't have a very stable job or anything. But it's different for me because I want to find a company with a more stable team and to build a stronger core that can move from one game to another, from one franchise to another. And when I looked at this, I looked into the franchising model. So I want to create both a game and a franchise. And in order to do that, we were always trying to look for a business model that fits. For mobile, it actually never really fit. If you know the usual free-to-play in-app purchase gacha games you see
Yes.
typically out there in the game, they are not actually that great in building brand image and IPs. Only very few can manage to do that. Most of these games focus on the acquisition. Everything in the first 30 minutes has to be there, putting users directly onto the Skinner box tactics where they go into level up, marketplace, level up, and then time gated content. It's actually very hard for developers to build loyalty, but it's very easy for them to monetize users like this. but ultimately the burnout rate is also huge. And the competition for these free-to-play games and marketing costs is insanely huge.
Yes.
No Web3 game with any funding, or even with the amount of funding we pull, will be able to compete in the free-to-play market alone. Like we need proper partners. I mean, the budget that we pulled off is probably only enough for us to develop the game. In order to market the game, we will definitely need more funding or at least much greater partners. But this also comes in the form of where the blockchain excels. Blockchain games, and looking at the Web3 community that evolved over the past 3 years, I strongly believe that the community of Web3 is much more stronger and has a lot more potential than any communities I've seen in Web2. The fervor and the contribution the community members have made in both helping us expand the brand, acquire more users, sharing their knowledge is actually extremely helpful. And to put it on a monetary sense, it saves a lot of costs. The amount of profit margin in the normal Web2 markets is actually very low because everyone utilizes Google Ads and Facebook Ads to the extreme. But if we can break this chain with the help of the community, with a more direct approach that Web3 enables, I think this is the point where the IP franchise and the game can really merge and create a new business model, one that both utilizes the Web2's monetization, but with a much more efficient use of resources and costs. And I think this is the what really attracted us into Web3. And after we come in, we look into the tokenomics, the economies, the user ownership angle. It expanded the game into an even larger mechanism, but something that is truly unique in its interactions with the users and the economy. And I think, although it's still early, I don't think we have the answers yet. But the possibilities opened up by this system is is something that coupled with our unique gameplay mechanisms is something the world has never seen. And I'm very excited to show the world a new type of gameplay and user economy that will be very fun to engage with. And to
Well,
put it
it's very
simply,
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, well, you did mention, I mean, it's very interesting regarding the community, for example, that you said that you get some very valuable info. Obviously, it is very different from Web2 because they are not only gamers, they might be also investors, right? And it's like we are in the same boat, right? Everybody's the same boat. If the game, if the company, the franchise just takes off, if it evolves, then it lifts everyone up. So yes, we will come back to the communities, discuss about them just a second. Before that, I wanted to mention that now the game is downloadable from Epic Games. I also downloaded it and played around a bit. So
mm-hmm.
congrats for the design and for the game. I really like it.
Thanks.
There are not rumors, but I think in the last couple of years, maybe in the last 1 or 2 years since we have Web3, it was always said that Web2 hubs don't really accept Web3 games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking, for example, about Steam. And when
Mm-hmm.
your game was listed on Epic Games, I was kind of surprised and I was very happy to see that. So
Mm.
I wanted to ask you, how was the discussion? Was it like a long discussion about it? How is the process? How do you see a change in the perspective of these Web2 hubs to list
Okay.
Web3 games in the last couple of months or maybe in the last half a year, 1 year?
Okay, well, to be very honest, the listing on Epic is actually very easy. They have a self-publish button. You can just go through it, and of course, they will still examine your game and everything. But it's actually much easier than most people think. You can just go to their website, press the self-publish, and you'll be on your way in a month. Um, and but I do want to say that the Web2 users, especially on the PC and Mac platforms, are still very hostile towards Web3 games. I don't see this animosity disappearing anytime soon. But that is also why a lot of people are turning their attention to mobile because the mobile game user base have a lot of similarities if we compare them as gamers crowds to the PC gamer crowds. Yes, the PC gamer crowds are more focused, they're more fervent, and there are more hardcore gamers over there with fans and roots that go way back. But it is the mobile gamer crowd that's actually much larger and have much more similarities with the Web3 crowds in terms of their knowledge of the game's accessibility and the understanding of spending, um, which will definitely help the Web3 crowds in the beginning. And back to the listing though, yeah, it's actually much easier. Yes, the Steam stance is still pretty clear that they don't want mobile games, but at the same time, you still see games like Fusionist going on there. I think as long as you clearly label that your NFT portions and in-app purchases have nothing to do with blockchain and NFT, you can still get listed on the Web2 platforms. More and more, you see these different platforms and Web2, Google, Epic, Steam, and even some of them in China, they have been opening up to more of these Web3 gaming options, but they clearly state whether they want you to, how they want you to include the Web3 stance into the whole prospect. The easiest way for any game or app to get on is actually just to remove all mentions of NFTs or any functions related to NFTs on the version that they download from their game store. For example, Fusionists can still have their own app version downloadable on their own website that features full NFT functions, but as long as the version on Steam does not have it, they will allow it. And that's my understanding of how it all works. As for Epic, Epic is a lot more easier. But still, Epic does not allow. Epic allows in-app purchases, and those in-app purchases cannot be related with NFTs. If you get past these, it's actually rather easy to list on them.
Okay, I think that was a very important bit of information. So thanks for sharing that. Now, I think what I wanted to ask you is to a bit deep dive into the game.
Okay.
How would you describe it in a couple of sentences for everyone to understand why it is different than all the rest? Maybe those
Oh,
would be my main questions.
that is probably the toughest question anyone can ask about Apron is to ask me to simplify it, because God games are so much. But put it in a few simple sentences. Apron is a God game, a roguelite, and all in an esports card battler. It's all three combined into one. But the core of the game is that it's a highly replayable experience, much like many roguelike games, where each playthrough will feel different. A number of skills that you will be given, the choices that you make will be very different, and based on these choices, you will be playing in cycle after cycle, and every cycle you unlock something more, but you also discover new gameplay styles that may entice you, and that is Apeiron. It's pretty much in the name. Apeiron is a Greek word meaning infinite, and it's the number. It's how limitless the number of gameplay that Apeiron can offer. That is the core of Apeiron in terms of good or evil, in terms of what element, what class you want to play, what quests your dudes, your future apostles will give you. That's all. Well, I wouldn't call it random, but it's all very personalized. Now that we even integrate ChatGPT functions into it.
Okay, interesting. Um, about the complexity, it takes some
Mm,
time until you learn it because I spent some time with it. I can see that it's just
oh
so
yeah,
many things. I mean, you have to spend.
it
I
does
would I
does
would say
does
hours
does.
and hours. It's days and days and days
Yes.
to learn it. So, is there a best way to learn it, or I don't know, any platforms, any blog posts,
Yes.
anybody should follow, or is the best way is to play it and everybody
Yep.
will figure it out?
Well, the first thing I have to note is that the tutorials always come the last. So we didn't the tutorial right now is very superficial. It's not what we envisioned in the future. But for game developers, putting tutorials too early is will be a waste of resources because you want more features in before planning a tutorial. If we make a tutorial for every alpha or single feature, it would be a big waste of resources. So a proper tutorial to properly guide users into this new gameplay mechanism will be probably installed when the game is out in beta, especially later this year. But if you want to learn more about the game, actually the easiest way is just to get to our Discord. Our Discord community have players, top streamers there almost 24/7. You just need to go there. There's a general chat or there's a town hall, the voice channel. People are always streaming there. The top players are always streaming there. They are a fun and very helpful bunch that will guide you through all processes. And for those of you who prefer to be more quiet, you can just watch a few videos that's available in our starter guide channel to get you through the initial gameplay. And we get a lot of this kind of feedback too nowadays because we're working with a lot of different KOLs and they give us a lot of valuable feedback. And we typically show them like 2 videos to get them started. And once they watch the 2, they have no problem playing the game. But ultimately, highly suggest going to the community. A lot of helpful dudes over there.
Well, I just want to add here that I think any game I started, I also learned it from gameplay videos, learning it from other players. So I think that's a great advice to go on Discord and watch others play or look out for others' advices. Now, I want to, before we go forward, because I want to talk about the NFTs, I want to circle back just a bit to the community. You mentioned that you already have players, gamers who are sharing content, who are streaming. In any with any game builder I talk, usually people say that either there will be a Web3 gamers community, or the games, by advancing, by having better and better games which can compete with Web2 games, will somehow drag some people, some gamers from the Web2 communities as well. You already mentioned that there is also the mobile gaming community. So right now, when you look at the whole gaming industry, let's say, how would you describe it? Do you agree with this, with like 3 main crowds, or how do you see the communities divided? And yeah,
I
maybe
certainly hope the
then joining.
communities will not be divided. I mean, there will always be a holder community, but ultimately, the holders would want the gamers to play the game. That's actually how a lot of them ultimately can earn, can make profit. Is that the user base expands, and I think it just comes down to it's pretty much how the whole Web3 game started. I mean, before Axie and everything, there were not many gamers. All it takes is an interesting game and some elements, and then we can onboard a lot more new users. But of course, for the next phase of acquisition, now that there's so many negative news out there, it's really for a proper game to come out. And of course, the more frictionless the Web3 element is, the better it will be. Um, One of the reasons that we want to move on to a new chain is to find a chain with the least possible friction when a user have to learn to move to Web3. I envisioned in the future when the tech is available, the whole on-chain experience will be a lot smoother, unlike the one we have now, and that would significantly remove the barrier between Web 2 and Web 3. And I think there are still many new models coming in, and even us, we will be pivoting our token economy, our NFT ecosystem to make sure that this user experience is as seamless as possible, and that well, I still foresee there will still be 2 crowds. There will still be a more Web3 crowd that focuses on the earning aspect, on the uh, on the token economy instead of the game itself. But they should coexist with the Web2 just fine, and the line between the two should begin to blur as the technology evolves.
Okay. I just want to mention to our audience that if you have any questions, then feel free to type it in the comments, because yeah, we can ask Frank at the end of the session. And to continue this thought, I also want to dive in a bit into the NFTs, because there are many NFTs. I think the one which caught my attention was the Planet NFT. So could you drive us through this? I wouldn't call it maze of NFTs, but you have quite a few, and which one you recommend to start with, which one a gamer needs to start to play.
Okay. So Apeiron features two main types of NFTs right now, the planet and the stars. To play Apeiron, you only need one planet NFT. That's pretty much all you need in order to play Apeiron. In order to create other NFTs, one planet is actually all you need. But of course, there are other utilities of a planet. You can breed them if you have more than one. That's actually how a lot of our planets will be born. And then you can stake them to earn extra NFT items or currencies. Our next staking will open up after the Apostle Mint next week. And the stars is actually, well, our land. The planets are not the land. Many people confuse our planets to be our land NFTs, but our land NFT is actually the star, the sun you see. And you orbit the planets around them to age these planets. The older your planet gets, the more powerful your planets become. And that's pretty much it. But we target the economy and the ecosystem so that a planet should be around the price of a game you see on Steam, like around 50 to 60 US dollars is what we foresee the floor to be, so that it's more accessible. But there are many different types of planets in Apeiron, like the normal planets and the primeval planets. Primeval planets offer like higher pledge levels based on the amount of money it costs to mint in the beginning, and they entitle users to many different types of airdrops, early access, bonus content in our community, bonus earning opportunities in our community. So yeah, well, you can take a look at all these different stuff and see. Recently, we did streaming, like a contribute to earned mission in our Discord, where any user holding our planet can stream gameplay, any gameplay, not just Apeiron. They can stream Final Fantasy, they can stream Diablo, and they will get paid in NFTs and well, that's actually very liquid NFTs, and a lot of users really like it.
Well, that's interesting to hear. I mean, yeah, that's surprising, to be honest. That you can be airdrop for streaming Final Fantasy or another game. That's interesting. Okay, so the planets are evolving. There is an evolution, and the more it ages, the more powerful it gets. That's I think that's a nice thought, and obviously makes sense. You also have three type of in-game coins for in-game for governance, but I think the best would be if you could just expand on them a bit and maybe tell us how gamers, investors should use them in the game, outside of the game. What is the best way to for this economy?
All right. So actually, most of you don't really have to worry about the third token. The third token wouldn't come until like the main massive multiplayer features are on. In the beginning, we're just going to list the two tokens, Aperos and Anima. If you compare it with Axie, it's highly similar to what AXS and SLP are. The first two tokens is related with the creation and the enhancement of NFTs. Our whole economy is designed around the idea of enhancing and creating and enhancing NFTs. The core governance token is APRS. That's similar to AXS, and you will use it to create new NFTs. The first creation is the breeding of planets. It will consume AXS. The other is the creation of relics. Relics are like equipment in Apeiron. In the future, your planets, after you spend enough time grooming them, after you dwell into the dungeons, you can turn special items. In the current season, in the current Apeiron, the apostles that you meet in the dungeons can be turned into relics. The relics can be minted into NFTs, and because our gameplay follows a roguelike structure, so it goes through Armageddon and a cycle where you reset and play again. Normally, when you reset, everything will be erased. But if you have these relics, they will survive the cycle, meaning you can start a new cycle more powerful, and you can reach deeper dungeons and create much greater worlds and down the path. And this creation uses our main token. And the enhancement of these NFTs takes place in the form of our gameplay token. If you look at the game economy, a lot of times how games reward users is through their in-game currencies. And these in-game currencies typically they reward them from daily missions, from rankings and tournaments, and this is the small incentives that keeps the gamers going. We keep these two separate tokens separate because, well, user incentive tokens are often much larger in supply, and a lot of users will be constantly trying to create these resources. While the more premium currency, the APRS of Apeiron, is catered to be more unique, relating to governance and creation, and so these are the two core tokens, where larger investors will look into the APRS, while the gamers will be looking into the anima. The third token is also a game currency token created by users, but how it differs from Anima, the first one, is that the third one can only be created via massive multiplayer engagements. We don't put this, a lot of users, a lot of funds ask us, why don't we put that third token in the utility back with the first or the second token? Our understanding is that if we put it back to either one of those in the before, then it would easily, because massive multiplayer engagement is actually one of the greatest supply emissions. If you put it into either of the ones before, it will collapse it. If you put a multiplayer reward and a single player reward with the same currency, a lot of your gameplay systems will collapse because users will always find the most efficient way to farm your tokens in ingenious methods. Placing all your eggs in one basket in this will only hasten the death of that token, especially when you clump all the investors, gamers, speculators, gaming guilds, grinders into those one or two tokens. That's why we want to envision the creation of a third token dedicated with mass multiplayer interactions. And well, that's how we feel the problem. That's actually how
Mhm.
typical game designers look into uh, economic problems. They create more and different resources so that they can filter different types of user actions and users in general into different types of gameplay mechanisms to properly filter them and not to bunch them all up. It's not that it's impossible to bunch them all up, but it's very the less currency you have, the harder it is actually to balance a whole economy. Um, I know
And
on
I
the yeah, sorry.
No. I just sorry. I thought you finished your sentence. I just wanted to say that I do understand your thinking, and I think it makes a lot of sense because I don't know, a crash of one of the currencies, right, can just drag with it a reputation, right, of the whole product. So I think that it is very important the economy to be thought very carefully.
Mm.
Okay, I think you mentioned multiplayer, which is coming uh, in the future. I saw on your roadmap that the next steps are esports arena, galactic gameplay, and then metaverse integration. How do you picture the metaverse integration? What that means for Apeiron? Because I think the metaverse will probably come up again. Now we don't hear it that often as
Mhm.
we heard it last year, and we
Yeah.
saw we heard from dystopian future to plugin as a browser. How the game will be part of the metaverse, and I think I'm trying to hint at other games as well, right? Because I think that is also a very big feature of the blockchain
Mhm.
that you own your items and maybe you can use it in another game. And you
Mhm.
also mentioned franchise, which already says that it's not one game only. So how do you see this? How do you see this in the future?
Well, I still hold my belief in the metaverse, but my definition of the metaverse has always been that, well, there's only one metaverse, and that's pretty much the entire Web3 united. And in order to do that, actually, the proliferation of AI is actually very helpful in allowing this to happen faster. But anyway, let me get back to the nature of the question. For me, the metaverse will function very much like countries, where Apeiron actually each game project can be like their own little nation, and I always view the NFTs and tokens to be like passports and currencies, much like in the real world. But it's not that like I hold one passport. If you're an Apeiron, you hold the planet, you have Apeiron's passport. But does that mean holding this passport will guarantee you entry into all other projects? I think the projects have to work with each other to create sort of like a common ground, like a visa. I will always compare with a working visa or a tourist visa that the different projects can work on. So I can allow an Axie to come into our ecosystem, depending if it's a tourist visa or a working visa. If it's a tourist visa, they can use the NFTs over in our place. They can see utility. It's pretty much an experience of the ecosystem. But if it's a working visa, they could actually come into our ecosystem, use their NFTs, and generate our tokens, our resources. This is how envisioned the early steps of the metaverse should be, where different projects have their IPs, their passports ready for others to come in, and depending on how we collaborate with each other, we can generate or earn different currencies. But of course, this should be under a limited time and not like a permanent sort of thing. It wouldn't make sense. And then in the future, talking about true interoperability, that requires a lot more, which actually AI is helping us. How does two projects, two different art styles, and maybe even two different, entirely different graphic styles can merge together? Previously, there is no clear line on neutrality, but with AI, with generative artwork, we can actually include two IPs, unique elements, and create a third type of mutations for the form of art. And what I see in the next step of the metaverse are these different types of mutations, where one project's NFTs can mutate in another into another form, in another project, and be usable. That will be the next step in the metaverse, where one NFT can truly be used in another space, but it would have to be through like a mutation or even a burn to transform that NFT. In the third step would come the true dream of interoperability of metaverse, where your IP, your NFT can actually be used directly in another project and in the greater ecosystem. But it will still take a lot of time for that to integrate. But being one step at a time, I think the next step we're all looking at is this sort of mutation and passport sort of a visa style that will be what we'll be seeing.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yep. I think it broke up a bit.
Oh, well, sorry. But yeah, that's mostly what I want to
Yeah,
convey.
I heard your last sentence. Yeah, I was just thinking that you mentioned the generative AI. For me, it says that maybe I don't know if I'm thinking in shooter games that a gun or a skin has like a DNA, and each project with generative AI will just create the skin and the image which is used in the game
Yep.
to play with it. So that's very interesting, and I think yeah, the future is very interesting when you talk about cross-chain integrations and all the new games and initiatives which can be also generated with AI, obviously. Okay, we are reaching my last two questions. So these will be the easiest ones. Do you have any message to the community which you want to transmit?
Oh yeah. Well, very proud of my community. Oh wait, do you mean my community or your community?
Maybe both. Okay,
Okay.
and already gamers.
Well, very excited because our season 2 leaderboard is ending tomorrow. We have over 200 communities participating, 10,000 users registered, and it's an absolute joy seeing all of you play, giving all the feedback, which we still review every day. I'm very looking forward to the coming guild wars, where the top guilds and communities will compete against each other. We'll be releasing this boss rush mode tomorrow for these communities, and it will be a blast. You guys will be able to fight the third boss. and I can't wait to see our top players compete in this boss rush mode. And I have to really thank the community for pulling through and giving us all the feedback. And I really hope you guys will enjoy the game, and look forward to even more and better releases after the leaderboard as we continue to progress on the balancing and ultimately moving towards our beta in Q4.
Well, I think that is a nice message and very good number. So congrats to that.
Yeah.
Last question is if there are any upcoming announcements in the next couple of months, which you think are very important and the audience should look out for.
Well, there's definitely a big announcement coming next month, other than the Guild Wars. I think most of the people in my community will know what I'm talking about. But of course, I would like to make the announcement when more final details are confirmed. After that major announcement, I think everyone, what we're really hoping to look for is the mobile launch and the mobile release. Will include definitely our NFT holders and our core partners such as Morningstar and MSP to really work with us to ensure that we have a great game lined up, and we will allow you guys to early test our mobile builds, our new gameplay system, and especially the PvP system that everybody is waiting for. Um, and yep, just stay tuned, and we'll play some more Apeiron while you have time. Our Discord community have a crap ton of rewards that wait anyone who wants to try it, and we still have a lot of these cute little plushies and cushions that we would like to give away.
Well, I for one will visually play it, and I can't wait to see the mobile game. So yeah, you can count on me for sure, and on the team. Frank, thank you very much
Definitely,
for being here. Thank you very much for
it's a
taking the
pleasure.
time, even being so late. It was a fun chat. Thank you
Yeah,
for the information. I hope that we can do this again sometimes.
definitely. And thank you, Morningstar and MSV, for hosting and allowing me to chat here. Morningstar is one of my favorite partners, one of the most helpful partners I've had in Web3, and I really appreciate all the help you've been giving us all this time.
Very nice words. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
everyone. We have spaces every 2 weeks. Next one is a roundtable. My colleagues Nani and Peter will host it, so make sure that you tune in there as well. Thank you
All
very
right.
much for tuning in, and thanks, Frank, again for this chat.
All right. Thank you. Have a great night, guys. Or a great day.
You too.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.